One thing that often gets neglected as riders is our brake fluid. And I totally get why. The brakes still work, and we're still able to stop, so what needs to be done with them?
And even if your brake pads, your brake disc, everything looks pretty good, a lot of the times the brake fluid in your system becomes old and it kind of degrades and wears out a little bit. And it's a pretty gradual decline too. It's not something you're gonna wake up and notice right away. Over the course of months, you're gonna find that you just don't have the braking power that you used to. What's up everybody, I'm Mitch. Thanks for checking out another video on my Fit for Motor YouTube channel, and you guessed it. Today's video we're talking about brakes, but specifically how to get the old brake fluid out of your system and put some new stuff in. It can be somewhat of an intimidating job just because you got to work the levers at the same time and then you don't want to get air back in the system. It can be kind of a real pain in the butt, but I have a system here that I'm going to show you. It's cost effective. It's really, really easy to use. I'm pretty excited. And I've got this here because I'm going to be doing it on my project bike. It's probably got 20-year-old fluid in it. I'll show you how easy this thing is to set it up, swap out some new fluid so your brakes can get back to normal. Roll the intro and let's do it.
Like oil, brake fluid loses its effectiveness over time because the fluid is hygroscopic, which means it absorbs water. That can lead to corrosion and other problems, which makes your brake less effective, decreasing your ability to stop over time. An easy fix is to just swap out your brake fluid, but it is important to note that you want to make sure to check the owner's manual for the proper brake fluid type. Not all fluids are created equal, so you want to make sure that you have one that's compatible with your system. Mine happens to be the .4. There are a few options when it comes to the tools that you can use to bleed your brakes or to swap out the fluid altogether.
So there are a few options out there. You can go with something as simple as having just this little check valve in line. So this is pretty straightforward to use, but it's kind of a pain in the butt compared to this other system, and I'll tell you why. So you hook this up to your brakes, you put the other end in a bottle, so the fluid's gonna flow through here. So you put this in an empty pop can or something like that. You have someone put pressure in the system by pushing down your brake lever or pulling in your front brake lever, whatever. And you have a wrench on the little bleed nipple. So with the pressure on the system, you open up the wrench, force some of the old fluid out, and then close it again, because the lever is gonna go down to the bottom or it's gonna pull all the way into the handlebars, right? You shut it again, and this little check valve in here is only supposed to allow the fluid to go one way. So it's not gonna be able to go backwards, letting it back in or letting air back in the system. The pain in the butt is that you need another person to work that lever. They've got to be watching the master cylinder. Like, it's really just kind of a pain in the butt way to do it. It's a cheap option. These are only a couple bucks for this little check valve. And to be honest, you don't even need that. You could just do it without a check valve, but it's kind of a pain in the butt. Or you can spend a whopping $22. I know it breaks the bank. And this takes care of all the headaches of bleeding your brakes. Now, what I have here is the Tusk Brake Bleeder Vacuum Pump Kit. Big bunch of words. Really all it is, it's a little system that pulls a vacuum onto your brakes, and it's really, really easy to use. You hook it up to the brake caliper, you open up your nipple, you pull a vacuum on the system. It pulls the fluid into the little reservoir here. It doesn't go into the pump. You can do it one-man jobby. It's a really, really fantastic system. It takes all the headache and all the intimidation out of doing this. Anybody can run this system. I'll show you how to do it.
To completely swap out the fluid, you can save yourself some time by just removing the fluid that's already in the master reservoir. Obviously, it's pretty easy to get this fluid out, but it's even easier if you can just suck it out with a vacuum bleeder kit. Once the master cylinder is empty, top it up with the fresh fluid that you'll be putting in there. Attach the vacuum kit to the lower nipple on the brake caliper and place the system under a vacuum.
Now this is where this little system comes in really, really handy, because like I mentioned before, typically you'd have somebody pulling the lever in and keeping the pressure on the system while you work the little bleed nipple. You're trying not to let air get back in the system. They're trying not to let the reservoir run dry, and it's kind of a multi-person job. But with this setup, no muss, no fuss, you have become a one-man show.
open up the bleed nipple, and because the system's under a negative pressure, it'll begin pulling the fresh fluid from the master cylinder down through the bleed nipple. Importantly, you want to make sure that you continue to top up the master cylinder so you don't get any air in the system, or else you'll just be chasing yourself in circles. So as you pull a vacuum on the system, just poke your head up and put some fresh fluid in it to keep the system topping up.
So you just keep doing that until you see the new fluid come through the hose and into the little reservoir here. There's no more air bubbles or anything like that. You lock the system up. You can even pull a little vacuum on this and suck the extra fluid, drain the hose out back in the little reservoir. It's pretty easy, right? Now, as long as your master caliper, your brake pads, your brake discs, as long as everything else about the brake system is in good shape, you're gonna have like fresh brakes again, and that's pretty cool. And trust me, you can even leave a comment below. You're gonna notice the difference if your brake fluid is degraded over time by grabbing on the water. You're gonna feel the power in your brakes just from swapping out your brake fluid, which used to be a pain in the butt. But this little system makes it pretty easy. I'm gonna put a link below if this seems like something you wanna get. I don't make any money off this. I'm not sponsored by them in any way, shape, or form. I just think it's a really handy tool, and it's made my life a whole lot easier when it comes to bleeding in my brakes. Hope you liked the video, hope it helped in some way. Smash that subscribe button for me, you know I appreciate it. Head over to iRideSupplements.com, grab some of these supplements, I know you're gonna love them. Stay safe, ride safe, get your brakes up to par. We'll see you in the next video.